White CEO falls for black barista. She had no idea he was a lonely millionaire single dad. Subscribe for more stories. He appeared each evening, seeking only a cup of coffee. She remained unaware that he was a lonely millionaire CEO and a single father. Rain misted against the glass of bean and brush. A cozy cafe tucked away in Seattle's core, its warm lighting spilling over the abstract art that decorated the walls. Amara Brooks, a young woman of 26, her dark, coily hair artfully wrapped in a silk scarf, cleaned the barista station with a familiar rhythm. Her smile was radiant, yet her eyes held a shadow of sorrow, a lingering pain from a love she believed she had sacrificed for her devotion to art. The bell on the door chimed, and James Caldwell entered, his simple jacket concealing the sophisticated image familiar from magazine pages. The weariness in his eyes was undeniable, but a certain softness emerged as he looked around the room, settling on a quiet table in the corner. He came to the counter to request a single espresso. Amara, lost in thought about an incomplete painting on the wall, a storm of color and form still swirling in her imagination, accidentally bumped his cup. Dark, hot liquid splashed across James's jacket. "Oh goodness, I am so incredibly sorry. I'll cover the cleaning cost," Amara insisted, her face burning with embarrassment. James let out a soft laugh, dismissing the incident with a kind smile. "It's only a jacket, but you look like you were creating something beautiful in your mind. Would you like to tell me about it?" Amara blushed and looked down, murmuring shyly, "I'm not much of a storyteller. I'm better at creating messes." Apparently, the corners of James's eyes crinkled with genuine warmth. Sometimes the best things start from a bit of chaos. His attention shifted to the large, abstract canvas hanging behind her. "Did you create that one?" Amara affirmed with a nod, her voice softening. "I did, but I haven't painted in a long time." It felt like no one was really interested. James leaned forward, his tone sincere. "Well, I'm interested." The simple declaration caught Amara off guard, rendering her speechless for a moment. A rare warmth bloomed in her chest, cracking through her defenses. As the night went on, James quietly fixed a wobbly shelf behind the counter, taking care not to be noticed, but Amara saw his gentle action, sensing his innate kindness. When he departed, he left a generous tip on the counter with a brief note. "Your coffee might be a mess, but your art certainly isn't." Amara's smile blossomed as she clutched the note, feeling truly seen for the first time in what felt like forever. From the street, James looked back at the glowing cafe, an unfamiliar warmth spreading through him. The rain fell steadily, a quiet soundtrack to the loneliness they both secretly harbored. But on this night, within the amber glow of bean and brush, a delicate bond had started to weave itself between them. Inside, Amara watched him leave, the soft drumming of rain on the window echoing the solitude in her own soul. After James was gone, Amara lingered by the window, watching the rain wash over the city streets. Her thoughts drifted back to memories of a past relationship that had crumbled under the weight of her artistic ambition. Once a bright art student, she had abandoned her studies, weighed down by guilt and insecurity, and was now working as a barista to manage her old tuition debt. Even so, she found comfort in a small sketchbook she always carried, filling its pages with private drawings. James, however, was more than the quiet customer who visited nightly. He was a devoted single father to his two children, Emma, a shy 10-year-old who loved to paint but feared her art wasn't good enough, and Liam, an energetic 6-year-old who dreamed of being a superhero. Since losing his wife in a tragic accident 5 years prior, James had thrown his energy into building Luxwear, a thriving fashion empire. But beneath the success, he was a man shadowed by loneliness, fiercely shielding his family from the harsh glare of public life. That evening, as James made a call to Emma from the cafe, Amara overheard his gentle voice. "Have you put the final touches on your painting? Dad wants to hang it in his office." The tenderness in his words brought a soft smile to Amara's face, reminding her of her own father's quiet encouragement, now long past. Standing there as James vanished into the downpour, Amara felt an unexpected flutter in her chest, a quiet hope sparked by their unforeseen connection. The raindrops against the glass were a soft echo of the loneliness they both carried, temporarily soothed by the warm light of the café. The evening settled over Seattle, and Bean and Brush shone like a tranquil haven against the October chill. James had become a fixture at the café, a reliable presence in the late hours as the city quieted. He would arrive just as the evening rain began, order his usual strong espresso, and retreat to his corner, where the gentle light seemed to lift some of the burden from his shoulders. Amara found herself anticipating these evenings more than she would have admitted. There was a soothing quality to James's quiet demeanor, in the way he truly listened when she spoke of her art, and, to her surprise, shared glimpses of his own life. Their talks became a healing balm for her spirit, weaving a connection in a world where she often felt unseen. One evening, while cleaning the counter, Amara glanced at James and confessed, "I used to believe art could save me, that I could fix everything with it. Instead, I hurt the person I cared about most because I was so lost in my work." James's expression softened. "Art doesn't cause pain, Amara. It just needs to be seen by the right person. Perhaps your art just hasn't found its true audience yet." Her face warmed at his sentiment, a spark of hope reawakening within her. As James reached for his cup, his hand brushed against a small, worn sketchbook Amara had left open. Without a word, he picked it up, placed it carefully back down, and slid a new colored pencil beside it. "Don't let your masterpiece go unfinished," he said quietly, his eyes meeting hers with genuine encouragement. Amara's breath caught in her throat. The simple gesture of kindness resonated deeply. She looked down, hiding a shy smile, feeling a rare and profound sense of being understood. That night, their conversation deepened. James spoke of Emma, his 10-year-old daughter, with a fond smile, describing her passion for painting and the self-doubt that held her back. Amara listened with an empathetic heart. "Tell her to keep at it," she urged softly. "Someone out there will recognize the beauty in her work, just as I see it in yours." James was silent for a moment, letting her words sink in. He realized Amara's kindness was more than just a comfort. It was touching parts of his heart he had long since closed off. Though neither of them said it, James began to count the hours until he could see her again. And Amara, feeling safe in his presence, sensed the beginning of something she didn't dare to name, believing James was simply a kind man, a good father seeking a moment of peace. One rainy evening, James came in holding a small, rolled-up canvas. He offered it to Amara, a question in his eyes. "What are your thoughts on Emma's painting?" Amara gently unrolled the canvas, revealing a soft, gentle scene of a garden bathed in sunlight. The brushwork was delicate but filled with hope. "She has a beautiful spirit," Amara said with sincerity. "The kind that communicates through her art." Just outside the cafe door, Emma stood quietly, watching. A small, timid smile formed on her lips as she overheard Amara's praise, her heart swelling with a newfound sense of pride. As the night grew later, the lights inside Bean and Brush dimmed. Amara stood by the window, watching the rain trace paths down the glass. Her thoughts were consumed by James, the man whose presence had become a quiet warmth in her life. For a moment, as the city slept, Amara let herself hope. The cafe was unusually still that evening, the typical hum of activity replaced by a tranquility that enveloped Amara and James as they sat together. The soft lighting created an intimacy that neither had been looking for. Outside, the rain had eased to a light drizzle, its rhythm a faint backdrop to their quiet conversation. Amara stirred her coffee, her fingers tracing the cup's edge as she found the courage to share a piece of her history. "My ex broke up with me because I was too consumed by my art. He said I knew how to paint, but not how to love." Her voice quivered with the memory of old wounds. "I was so fixated on my canvases that I was blind to what was happening to us." James's gaze softened with a familiar pain. "I've made my own mistakes," he said softly. "I buried myself in my work, convinced it was the only way to stay afloat after my wife passed away. But in doing that, I wasn't really there for my kids." It took years for me to see that no amount of business success could ever replace family. They sat in a shared silence, the air filled with mutual understanding. Amara's curiosity prompted her to ask, "What is it that keeps you so occupied? What do you do that makes time just vanish?" James's smile was kind but guarded. "I'm just a guy who appreciates good coffee and art," he replied, though the weight in his eyes hinted at a truth he wasn't yet prepared to reveal. As the evening deepened, a draft swept through the café. Amara shivered, folding her arms around herself. James noticed and, without a second thought, removed his jacket and placed it over her shoulders. "You need to stay warm. You'll need steady hands to keep painting," he said, his voice gentle but firm. Their eyes met for a brief, charged moment, a spark of connection passing between them. Amara's smile was small but real, speaking of a trust she was cautiously offering. Later, as Amara gathered her things, the corner of a glossy magazine protruded from her bag. She hesitated, then pulled it out, her eyes widening at the sight of James's familiar face, smiling confidently under a headline. CEO of Luxwear, the man behind the empire. Her breath caught at her throat as admiration clashed with a sting of betrayal. She looked up at him, her voice barely a whisper. "You're the CEO, the owner of Luxwear." James's expression shifted, the burden of his secret now apparent. "Yes," he admitted quietly. "I want to keep that part of my life separate, mostly for my children's sake." "The spotlight isn't always kind." Amara nodded slowly, feeling the foundation of their connection tremble. Back at her apartment, she sat before a canvas, the wet paint mirroring the storm inside her. Was James's kindness genuine, or was it just a form of pity? The memory of his gentle eyes lingered, stirring feelings she hadn't expected. Their connection now involved more than just two adults. It was tangled with the lives of the children who relied on him. One night, James had shared, "Liam loves to tell stories about superheroes. He says, 'I need a hero like you.'" Amara had smiled, touched. "Then you should let him tell you. Kids need to know their fathers are listening." James's eyes had glistened with emotion, the weight of his fatherhood settling more deeply. Outside, the rain had ceased. Moonlight streamed through the window, casting silvery patterns across the floor, much like the conflicted feelings dancing in Amara's heart, caught between doubt and burgeoning hope. The days following the revelation were heavy with unspoken words and a palpable distance. Amara found herself hesitating at the door of Bean and Brush. The once familiar sanctuary now felt shadowed by the secret she had discovered. James's absence only amplified the ache. He hadn't come for several nights. No comforting presence, no shared espresso, no easy conversation. Word had reached her that his son, Liam, was sick, and James was understandably preoccupied. The weight of his responsibilities was evident in the silence that had fallen between them. Amara sat by her kitchen window, watching raindrops chase one another down the pane. The chill outside mirrored the turmoil within her. She finally picked up her phone and called Sarah, her best friend, needing to voice the tangled emotions she could no longer contain. "He's a CEO," Amara said, her voice trembling. "And I'm a barista. How can I possibly believe his feelings for me are real? How do I know it's not just pity? Like before, when my ex thought my art was nothing but a hobby and walked away." Sarah's voice was a steady anchor in the fog. "Amara, listen to what you've told me. He looks at you like you're the only person in the room. CEO or not, he sees you. He doesn't see a barista. He sees the whole person. Don't let your old fears make you blind to what's right in front of you." Amara bit her lip, holding back tears. She reached for her sketchbook, her trusted companion. Her pencil hovered over a blank page before tentatively tracing the silhouette of a man. It was James, the man who had turned her carefully ordered world upside down. Her strokes gained confidence, capturing his kind eyes, the gentle curve of his smile, and his protective nature. That afternoon, clutching the sketchbook, Amara went to meet Sarah at their usual café. The familiar scent of coffee and vanilla was a comfort. Sarah smiled knowingly and handed Amara a small envelope. "This arrived for you," she said softly. Amara's hands trembled as she opened it. Inside was a simple card with James's neat script. "I'm missing that terrible espresso you make." A bittersweet smile broke through, and tears finally fell, hot and healing. That small, simple message held more significance than any grand gesture. It was a thread of their connection, a sign that he still cared. Amara carefully folded the card and tucked it away. But the next day, another letter came, this one from a local art gallery. They had selected her paintings for an upcoming exhibition, a dream she had almost let go of. Yet, her excitement was tinged with frustration. She knew, somehow, that James had submitted her work without her knowledge, a secret act of support that felt both loving and overbearing. Was this his way of showing he cared, or was it just another reminder of the chasm between their worlds? That night, Amara sat alone, staring at an unfinished canvas. The brushstrokes were as uncertain as her own heart. Was James's kindness real, or was it a shield to keep her at arm's length? Could she truly trust him? Miles away, James sat in the quiet of his home, holding a messy but vibrant painting Emma had made of their family under a bright sun. He traced the lines gently, thinking of Amara. He wanted her to see the man behind the CEO title, the man who loved his children deeply and was quietly beginning to care for her. That evening, his phone buzzed. He hesitated, then called Amara. "Emma wants to learn how to paint," he said softly. "She really looks up to you. Would you be willing to teach her?" Amara's heart leaped. "I'd love to," she replied. Suddenly, she was no longer just an observer of James's world. She was being invited in, weaving her own story into his. The next morning, sunlight streamed into bean and brush. Amara held James's card, the words warming her from the inside out. For the first time in weeks, the knot of fear in her chest began to loosen. The distance between their lives felt a little smaller, bridged by shared hope and the fragile courage to believe in a new beginning. The afternoon sun cast long shadows through the windows of James's house. The familiar smell of paint filled the room, where Amara sat on a small stool, her hands guiding Emma's fingers as she held a brush. The little girl's eyes shone as color bloomed on the canvas. But Amara's thoughts drifted to the world she had just entered, a world far more complex than a café or a gallery. Glancing down the hall, Amara saw James slip quietly into the nursery. She followed, finding him gently rocking his son, Liam, who was restless with a soft cough. James's face was etched with exhaustion, his eyes shadowed, revealing a vulnerability that few ever witnessed. It was a glimpse of the man behind the powerful corporate mask, a man worn down by sleepless nights and the immense weight of his responsibilities. Later, Amara overheard James speaking quietly with his assistant on the phone. "I'm scared," he confessed, his voice low. "I don't know how to be completely open with Amara. If she learns about the lawsuit, about the mistake I made that nearly cost me everything, she'll leave. She deserves someone without all this baggage." Amara's heart tightened as she listened from the doorway, his fears merging with her own. She wanted to be a source of strength for him, but she was afraid too, afraid that the man she was falling for might retreat behind his walls of pride and pain again. The next day, the unspoken tension finally snapped. Sitting across from James in the living room, Amara's voice trembled as the words tumbled out. "Why did you hide all of this from me? Did you think I wasn't strong enough to handle the truth?" James's gaze fell, a flicker of pain crossing his face. "Amara, you make me want to be a real person, not just the cold CEO everyone sees. But I was terrified that if you saw the broken parts of me, you would walk away. I couldn't bear to lose you." Tears welled in Amara's eyes as James began to share his story. "Years ago, I made a terrible business decision. I fired an employee unfairly. The lawsuit that followed almost ruined me, my reputation, my confidence. I closed myself off after that. It was easier to hide than to face the truth." Her own tears fell as she whispered, "I'm scared, too. I lost so much. I thought if I let anyone get close again, I would just lose them." Without another word, they moved toward each other, their arms wrapping into a tight embrace. The warmth of their shared vulnerability melted away the barriers, creating a fragile but sacred space of trust. James went into the other room and returned with a drawing Emma had made. It was a simple sketch of Amara wearing a cape, standing tall. "Emma says you're her hero," James said softly. Amara's throat tightened with emotion. She held the drawing, feeling the weight of a new role, not just as an artist, but as part of this family. Just then, Liam toddled over, wrapping his small arms around her legs. "You tell superhero stories way better than Daddy," he giggled. Amara laughed, a genuine, joyful sound. The room seemed to brighten with the unspoken promise of belonging. Outside, the sun sank below the horizon, painting the sky in shades of gold and rose. Through the window, Amara and James stood side by side, gazing into the fading light. Words weren't needed. They shared a moment of quiet healing, a new beginning under the warmth of the setting sun. The gallery hummed with a quiet murmur of appreciation as Amara's paintings were displayed on the clean white walls. The careful lighting accentuated every brushstroke, drawing people into the emotions she had poured onto each canvas. For the first time in years, Amara felt her art was not just a secret kept in a sketchbook, but a voice that could be heard. From a distance, James watched, his pride carefully concealed. Unbeknownst to Amara, he had quietly set up a scholarship to support her artistic career, a gift born not from obligation, but from a genuine belief in her talent. He wanted to give her the opportunities to nurture her creative flame without the obstacles she had once known. Soon, Amara accepted a new position as an art consultant at Luxwear. The company's walls, once dominated by fashion sketches, began to reflect her influence, filled with the bold colors and abstract shapes of her unique vision. Yet, amid the professional success, Amara wrestled with self-doubt, wondering if she could ever truly belong in this world of wealth and high stakes. Meanwhile, James's nights were often restless. He questioned his own worth, not just as a CEO struggling with the pressures of his empire, but as a man learning to open his heart again. The demands of his company often pulled him away from his children, and now from Amara, the woman who was gently healing him. One morning, Amara arrived at her new studio to find a sketchbook on her desk. A simple note lay on top in James's familiar script: "Keep painting your dreams. Don't let them fade." A grateful smile touched her lips, and when their eyes met across the office later, a silent promise passed between them to keep moving forward together. Weeks later, Amara organized a painting workshop for children at Luxwear, inviting Emma and Liam to participate. The room filled with laughter as paintbrushes danced across canvases. Emma shyly approached Amara, pressing a folded drawing into her hands. It was a family portrait drawn with simple lines and warm colors, with Amara standing right beside James and the children. "You belong in our home now," Emma said softly. Amara's eyes glistened with tears as she held the gift. In that moment, she knew her worth wasn't defined by past mistakes, but by the love she had found. James watched from the doorway, his heart full. Seeing Amara with his children, nurturing their creativity, he knew his feelings for her ran deeper than any fear. She wasn't just in their lives. She was becoming the heart of their family. During the workshop, Amara guided Emma in painting a superhero soaring through a colorful sky. Liam, the storyteller, spun a tale of a clumsy hero who saved the day with kindness. As the afternoon sun bathed the room in golden light, Amara felt a profound sense of healing. It was more than just colors and stories. It was the mending of hearts and the quiet certainty that love, like art, could transform even the deepest scars into something beautiful. This, she knew, was just the beginning of their masterpiece. The sleek Luxwear conference room was thick with tension as James Caldwell stood before his board of directors. The polished table reflected the stern faces and folded arms of executives who were questioning his recent choices, especially the prominent role he had given Amara Brooks. Whispers suggested his personal feelings were clouding his professional judgment. James's jaw set as he met their skeptical gazes. "I understand your reservations," he began, his voice steady. "But this is not about favoritism. Amara brings a unique artistic vision that is already elevating our brand." A presentation lit up the screen behind him. Charts and graphs showed a clear rise in customer engagement and sales figures directly linked to campaigns infused with Amara's artistic direction. The numbers spoke louder than their doubts. Internally, James was fighting for more than just a business decision. This was for his children, for the legacy he hoped to build, and for the man he was trying to become. Outside the meeting room, Amara paced nervously. Was this world truly meant for her? Was she just an outsider on borrowed time? But when James emerged, his steady gaze and quiet confidence eased her fears. Seeing him fight for her made her believe not just in him, but in them. That evening, James took Amara and the children to the park. The city's sharp edges softened under the sprawling oak trees, creating a sanctuary of laughter and freedom. Emma and Liam ran ahead, their happy shouts mixing with the sound of rustling leaves. James knelt beside Liam to tie his shoe, his hands gentle, and his eyes lifted to meet Amara's across the field. No words were needed. The warmth in his gaze was a promise of patience, honesty, and something more. Amara's heart fluttered, wanting to confess the feelings growing inside her, but the moment didn't feel quite right. Instead, she smiled, accepting the silent promise in his eyes. Nearby, Emma shyly approached Amara, holding a crumpled sketch. "I want to be a painter just like you," she whispered, her eyes bright with admiration. "Will you teach me?" Amara wrapped her arms around the little girl in a warm hug. Holding this child, so full of dreams, stirred something deep and maternal within her. In that moment, she was more than an artist or a barista. She was family. As the sun dipped lower, a colorful kite soared high against the sky, a symbol of a newfound freedom and hope for the family they were building together. The holiday season wrapped Luxware in a festive glow. Maya, now a confident art consultant, moved through the decorated halls with a radiant smile. Thanks to the scholarship James had arranged, she had resumed her art studies, honing her craft and embracing a future no longer clouded by doubt. Tonight was the company's annual Christmas party, which had been transformed into a celebration of family and creativity. Amara stood with Emma and Liam before a large canvas, and together they began to paint a vibrant mural they called Family. Their brushes wove together stories of hope and new beginnings, their laughter echoing as colors blended on the canvas. James approached, his presence calm and commanding. He smiled warmly, watching Amara guide his children's hands. "Amara, you and the kids have made my world infinitely brighter," he said softly, his voice full of the depth of a man who had discovered a richness beyond success. Later, James led them out into the crisp night air to the city's Christmas square, a magical scene of twinkling lights and festive cheer. Taking Amara's hand, he looked into her eyes with a tenderness that made her heart race. "Amara, I think I've loved you since you spilled that first messy espresso on me. You gave me and my children a second chance at happiness. I want to spend my life by your side, not as a CEO, but as the man who belongs with you and our family." Tears shimmered in Amara's eyes as she whispered back, "James, I love you too. You taught me that art and love can heal anything." Their lips met under the sparkling lights, a kiss filled with the promise of forever as Emma and Liam cheered nearby. James then pulled a small gift from his pocket, a simple, empty picture frame. "Here," he said, "for you to paint the future we're going to build together." Amara hugged the frame to her chest, her smile radiant with certainty. As they walked through the square, Liam told an animated story about Super Amara saving his dad, while Emma shyly showed Amara a drawing of the four of them. "You're my superhero, Mom," she declared proudly. Amara's heart swelled as she embraced them both, feeling the completeness of a family forged by love. In the days that followed, Luxware launched Art for All, a foundation to support children's artistic dreams, a testament to Amara's journey and James's vision. Together, they built a world where compassion and creativity could heal, proving that with love, even the deepest scars could become beautiful masterpieces.